Ever wonder where the next big star in baseball comes from? Well, the Los Angeles Dodgers' new closer, Tanner Scott, has one of the most unique origin stories you'll ever hear. Get this. His pitching journey started at a college that doesn't even exist anymore. That's right, Notre Dame College in Ohio announced its closure last spring. But rewind 11 years, and that small school had a hard-throwing lefty on their roster who would become their only big leaguer in history. That's Tanner Scott. Fast forward to today, and Scott is now the guy the Dodgers are trusting to shut down games. Having signed a massive 4-year, $72 million deal. That's the 5th largest contract ever for a relief pitcher. And it's a payday that was earned after some seriously dominant seasons. But Scott's path wasn't always paved with gold. He was a self-described terrible hitter in high school. Playing mostly outfield, his strong arm got him some occasional pitching appearances. But let's just say it wasn't pretty. Minimal college interest led him to Notre Dame College, where his fastball velocity started to climb, hitting 92 miles per hour as a freshman. The problem? His control was wild. Think a 5.54 ERA with a ton of walks. Not exactly a recipe for future stardom, right? But southpaws who can throw hard are rare. And after one season, Scott transferred to Howard College in Texas. And that, he says, was one of the best decisions he ever made. At Howard, he finally learned proper pitching mechanics and his fastball jumped to 97 miles per hour. His effectiveness improved, even if the walks were still a bit high. That one season was enough to make him a top junior college prospect. And the Baltimore Orioles drafted him in the 6th round, just 2 years after barely cracking 90 miles per hour in high school. Scott was touching triple digits as a pro. The road wasn't always smooth in the big leagues, mostly spent on struggling Orioles and Marlins teams. But his individual talent was undeniable, eventually leading to closing duties with the Marlins in a dominant 2023 season that saw him traded to the playoff-contending Padres. Interestingly, it was his performance against the Dodgers, both with the Marlins and the Padres, including striking out Shohei Ohtani multiple times in the playoffs, that likely caught their eye. As the saying goes, if you can't beat him, pay them a lot of money to join you. Now, Scott reunites with his close friend and fellow reliever Evan Phillips in the Dodgers bullpen. Their journey together started in the depths of the Orioles' rebuild, and now they're both high-leverage arms on one of baseball's best teams. Tanner Scott's story is a testament to perseverance and the incredible journey a player can take to reach the pinnacle of the sport. From a small college that's no more to the bright lights of Dodger Stadium, he's ready to lock down games for a championship contender. It's a story worth following. Dodgers fans, you might have to wait a little longer to see Mookie Betts back on the field at home. The Los Angeles Dodgers star shortstop is still dealing with an illness that has kept him off the diamond, and his status for their domestic opening day is now uncertain. Betts actually missed the Dodgers' first 2 regular season games over in Tokyo and was sent back to Los Angeles to continue his recovery. Unfortunately, he was also a late scratch for a recent exhibition game against the Los Angeles Angels, signaling that this illness is still lingering. And it sounds pretty rough. Betts told reporters that he hasn't been able to keep down solid food without vomiting for the past 2 weeks and has lost a significant amount of weight, around 15 pounds. That's definitely not ideal for a professional athlete gearing up for a long season. Despite the unpleasant symptoms, Betts himself says he feels great physically. He's been able to work out and do pretty much everything except eat properly, which he admits is strange. He mentioned that the main symptoms have subsided, but his stomach just hasn't calmed down yet. The good news, if you can call it that, is that all of Betts' blood work and other routine medical tests have come back normal so far. That's certainly a relief, but it doesn't solve the problem of him not being able to fuel his body properly. Betts won't be playing in another exhibition game against the Angels, and it's looking like a long shot that he'll be ready for the Dodgers' opening day game on American soil against the Detroit Tigers. He himself acknowledged the difficulty of playing a baseball game while not being able to eat. He anticipates having to take it easy for a bit and potentially playing uphill at the beginning of the season as he regains his strength. However, Betts' frustration is clear. He says he's tired of sitting out, tired of the vomiting, and just really wants to get back to playing baseball. This is a big year for Betts as he's making a full-time transition to shortstop after spending most of his career in the outfield and at second base. He's a former MVP and a key part of the Dodgers' World Series winning team. So his absence is definitely a blow. Dodgers fans will be eagerly awaiting updates on Mookie Betts' condition and hoping for a speedy recovery so he can get back to leading the team from shortstop. We'll keep you posted on any further news regarding his status. Alright, baseball buffs, time to head out west and see what the National League's Wild division has in store for us in 2025. We're talking about the NL West, where superstars are practically falling out of the sky, mostly landing in Dodger blue and Padre brown. But don't count out a couple of other teams who opened up their wallets this offseason to bring in some serious impact players. First up, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's be honest, folks, it's World Series or bust for these guys. And that was the expectation before they even won it last year. Now, they've gone and added even more firepower, bringing in Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki to bolster their already stacked rotation. Not to mention the small addition of a guy named Shohei Ohtani. They've also beefed up the bullpen and the lineup. Basically, if the Dodgers don't romp through this division, something has gone seriously wrong. Their biggest challenge might just be keeping their aging but talented roster healthy come playoff time. Next, we've got the Arizona Diamondbacks. Fresh off a World Series appearance in 2024, the D-backs are looking formidable again, especially after landing Cy Young winner Corbin Burnes to anchor their rotation. They were a top offensive team last year, and while they lost Christian Walker, they've brought in Josh Naylor who can certainly swing the bat. They should be the Dodgers' biggest threat in the West. Then there are the San Diego Padres. After a protracted legal battle within the ownership, the Padres had a pretty quiet offseason. They still have their dynamic duo in Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado, and some solid pitching. But while the Dodgers and D-backs were making splashes, the Padres mostly stood pat. They're still a good team, but they might take a step backward in this competitive division. Moving on to the San Francisco Giants. Under new front office leadership, they made a big early move by signing shortstop Willie Adames. They also brought in veteran Justin Verlander, though he's coming off injury. However, they did lose Blake Snell to their rivals in LA. Spring training didn't exactly inspire confidence. So while they might be better than last year, they'll likely be looking up at the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres. Finally, we have the Colorado Rockies. Let's just say the Rockies have a long climb ahead of them. They struggled mightily last year and haven't made any significant moves to suggest a major turnaround is on the horizon. Their offense was weak, and their pitching remains a concern. They've got some young talent, but it looks like another tough season in the Mile High City. So there you have it, folks. The NL West looks like the Dodgers' division to lose, with the Diamondbacks ready to pounce. The Padres might be treading water. The Giants are looking to improve, and the Rockies have a steep mountain to climb. It's going to be an exciting season out west. Alright, Angels fans, let's have a serious chat about your team. 10 years. That's how long it's been since the Los Angeles Angels had a winning season. That's the longest playoff drought in all of Major League Baseball. So, what's the vibe in Anaheim heading into 2025? Let's just say, it's not exactly sunshine and rainbows. Even the most dedicated fans are feeling the pain. One fan even compared it to waiting for those elusive World Series tickets back in '82, a dream that ultimately went unfulfilled. Sound familiar, Angels faithful? The departure of Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers, and his immediate World Series ring, only made things sting more. Projections for this season are, well, not great. Experts are predicting another losing year, and attendance has plummeted. Add in some off-field drama surrounding the stadium, and you've got a recipe for a pretty gloomy outlook. The Angels, under owner Arte Moreno, seem to be in a perpetual state of meh. They're not fully tearing it down to rebuild, but they're also not making the kind of big, splashy moves that scream contender. Instead, it's a roster that feels like it's just trying to hang around, hoping for an 80-something win season and maybe, just maybe, sneaking into the playoffs. But let's be honest, that hasn't worked for a decade. General manager Perry Minasian talks about a young core, guys like Zach Neto and Logan O'Hoppe, and some pitching prospects. The hope is that these players will develop into stars. The big, maybe far off, plan seems to be that when Anthony Rendon's massive contract finally expires in 2026, they can then add a couple of big-name free agents and compete. But that's a lot of ifs. And then there's Mike Trout. The greatest Angel ever is still capable of brilliance. But injuries have become a major concern. Even he admits that his health is a huge factor in the team's potential success. But relying solely on Trout, as amazing as he is, hasn't translated into wins. The pitching staff has also been a major issue. Since Jared Weaver's prime, they haven't had a reliable ace. And their starters had the worst era in the American League last season. That's a tough hole to dig out of. So, what should Angels fans expect in 2025? The GM says they'll play hard. But with the Dodgers drawing massive crowds while the Angels struggle to fill seats. The reality is clear. The Angels need a real plan. Their young players need to blossom. And they need some serious help on the pitching side. It's time for the Angels to give their loyal fans a reason to believe again. Well, folks, sometimes the best opportunities arise in unexpected ways. Tampa Bay Rays pitcher Ryan Pepiot just got the call of a lifetime. Manager Kevin Cash informed him that he will be the Rays' opening day starter this year, stepping in for the unfortunate Shane McClanahan, who's dealing with a nerve issue in his left triceps. While it's certainly not how Pepiot envisioned getting the nod, nobody wants to see a teammate sidelined by injury. Cash made it clear that Pepiot absolutely deserves this honor. Apparently, his performance last year really impressed the Rays brass. And when Cash gave him the news, Pepiot was understandably honored but also showed his good teammate spirit, acknowledging it wasn't the ideal circumstance. Cash wisely told him to separate the two and embrace the incredible opportunity. Unfortunately for McClanahan, he's going to miss at least a handful of starts, and the exact timeline for his return is still up in the air. Cash mentioned that McClanahan was understandably upset and sad about the setback, especially since he felt like he had done everything he could to get healthy and ready for the season. We're definitely wishing McClanahan a speedy recovery. The good news for the Rays is that they have some solid pitching depth. With 6 starters on the roster, they can easily slide into a normal 5-man rotation. So, after Pepiot takes the mound on opening day, we can expect to see Taj Bradley, Drew Rasmussen, Shane Baz, and Zach Littell rounding out the starting 5. To fill McClanahan's spot on the active roster, the Rays have recalled reliever Hunter Big from Triple-A Durham. So, they're adjusting their pitching staff to cover the loss of their talented lefty. It's a bittersweet situation in Tampa Bay. You never want to see a player like Shane McClanahan go down with an injury, especially to start the season. But it opens the door for Ryan Pepiot to showcase his talent on the biggest stage of opening day. It'll be exciting to see how he performs and how the Rays' rotation holds up in the early part of the season. Here's to a great season for the Rays, and hopefully a quick return for Shane McClanahan.